Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're done with our closed session, and we'll have a motion. Councillor Rudick will make a motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make a motion that the Town of Vegreville enter into negotiations with Inca Renewtech on the 24.2 acres of Prosperity Industrial Park as per the terms and conditions discussed in closed session.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Carried. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, this time I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes of our special meeting. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Sandra, that was 7:56. We come out of closed session. Okay. Next up, the request from St. Paul Search and Rescue Society. Welcome back, Renee. We just passed a motion. Do you want to hear what the motion was? Could you read that again, Councillor Rudick?
The motion reads, the Town of Vegreville enter into negotiations with Inca Renewtech on the 24.2 acres of Prosperity Industrial Park as per the terms and conditions discussed in closed session.
Okay, so for everybody, what that means is that I know there's been an announcement from Inca regarding them building in Vegreville, and we're very pleased. All of us are very happy about it. And there is some terms and conditions that we're still working on, and how the size of the piece of property they needed. So we went into closed session to talk about what their offer was and what our offer back to them will be. So it's not public knowledge that we can release all that, but we've agreed amongst council basically on where we stand back to them right now. So we'll be moving forward, and hopefully this will be signed in the next, hopefully by the end of the next week, with the lawyers and everything will be done, and we're very positive that this will move forward. Okay, who's doing the St. Paul Search and Rescue? We go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Worship. Wasn't assigned to me on the agenda, but I can speak to it quickly. St. Paul Search and Rescue has sent us a letter here indicating that their operating costs are about $4,500 a year, and they're requesting a donation of $200 from the municipality.
Okay. First of all, we'll take a motion to receive and file. Councilor Lemko makes the motion. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Lemko.
We've, back in the day when we worked with the fire department, when I was in the fire department, we've needed the resources of search and rescue for a call out in the county of Minburn, and the amount of folks that came out from St. Paul and their people showed that they're able to come to this area. I don't know if we have, I'm certain we can do things, but we're not a search and rescue, and I think $200 is quite a cheap amount of money to pay for having them still function. I think it's a good move for $200.
Okay, so you'd like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we support the St. Paul Search and Rescue with a donation of $200.
Huh?
We can combine it as one motion.
Okay, so to donate to $200 and receive and file.
Yeah, for receive and file, and further move that the donation of $200 be sent.
Okay, anybody else want to speak on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. I'm pretty sure it'd be well worth it. Yeah, just one trip out by our search and rescue team. Okay, next up is the Vegreville Agricultural Society request. What happened? It's on the back side of this. Okay, so, dear Town Council, Vegreville Agricultural Society is excited to be hosting once again our annual fair. This year, the board has decided to go ahead with 5 full days again, August 3rd to August 7th, 2022. As you are aware, this event takes countless volunteer hours. We are hoping that members of Town Council would once again be interested in driving our shuttle carts for our fair goers. We believe this is a great opportunity for council members to give back to their community and chat with residents and visitors. If you are interested in helping us again this year, please kindly reply to our office. Councillor Bullock would like to make a motion, or receive and file with a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion and receive a file that we do help them out, volunteers at that event.
Okay, well, I can tell you that, doing it, it is a lot of fun, and you get to meet a lot of visitors to town, plus residents of town, and it's nice to get some feedback, so. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you very much. Next up, Director Saskew.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have February cash statement here. We started the month with $9,456,000 and ended the month with $10,203,000. This is a net increase of $746,000. Major sources of cash for the month were the STIP grant payment for $500,000, net proceeds on land sale for $110,000, and a GTF grant payment for $668,000. This was contoured by use of cash, which was a large insurance payment for the year for $234,000.
All in all, it was a good month, though.
That was a good month, yes.
Keep this up, we'll be,
I won't talk about February or March too quickly.
take a motion, to receive the report as read. Councilor Worldwide makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, next up. There's you again.
Thank you. So this is the monthly cash statement for March of 2022. We began the month with $10,203,000 in cash, ended the month at $8,800,000 in cash. So for a net use of cash of $1.389 million. Some of our major sources of cash for the month were our ISIP payment of $157,600. Major uses of cash were another small insurance payment for $50,000. Payments to our Southeast 17 work done to our contractors for $309,000. Debenture payments of $245,800. And then Alberta education, Catholic and regular requisition payment of $512,000.
Okay, thank you. We'll take a motion to accept the report as read. Councilor Rudick makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Director Saskew again, reserves.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is the RCD for 2021 year-end reserve transfers. So these are related to the 2021 financials in preparation for the audit finalization. So there's 4 different backgrounds here. So RCMP retro pay in the amount of $289,000. Costs associated that were not budgeted, $218,000. 2021 capital works projects associated that were $23,000 in excess of budget, bringing from infrastructure reserve, and a library operating reserve. So this is the transfer of excess funds into reserve. So overall, financial implications, a transfer of $507,902 will be recorded in 2021 operating fund to cover unbudgeted expenditures in the departments listed below. So policing is the $289,000 and administration is $218,000. So that's $507,902 going to from reserves into operations to cover unbudgeted costs. And then Council approval is also required for unbudgeted expenditures for the capital works project. So that's a transfer of $23,439,000 from the infrastructure reserve to the capital fund. And then also an expenditure of $28,224 will be recorded in 2021 financial records to transfer unexpended grant fund, or unexpended funds from the library operating reserve for use in future years.
Okay. Take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. Any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Riddick.
My specific question is about the RCMP retro pay.
Okay.
I understand that we're taking this and putting this into general operating reserve, but have we actually received a bill?
We have not. So because we have received, not necessarily a bill, but they had given us a cost demonstration. So because it was, the amounts were known and estimable at the end of the year for purposes of the audit, that amount had to be accrued. So we're bringing this from reserves and it's recorded as accounts payable at the end of the year. So we have it as an expense in our financials, but it's still sitting as a payable. We have not paid these funds yet.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking that is just because that is our understanding with FCM conversations with the federal government, that the bills would not be delivered, or they would not be given out with the intention that there'll be further conversation, because it wasn't resolved in the way that we had anticipated in the budget, so in the federal budget. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much.
And just to be clear, some of this is the pay raises for this year as well.
Yes.
And those are real costs that have to go out, but we haven't seen a final number on what that is yet, correct?
That is correct. I think we've only paid about $30,000 of the in-year pay raise for 2021 at this point. So that's the retro pay is $194,000, and the current year pay raise was the $95,000. So part of that is the in-year pay raise that we know we will have to pay.
And they haven't really told us how many members they're charging to this detachment for the overall cost of that pay raise.
That is correct.
When do you, how do we find that out? Like, I know that we asked them why it was so much different than what I had thought, and they said because it could be 9 members, but we actually only have 8. So we'll sit down and have that conversation shortly, how we're gonna figure that out.
I believe so. And I do believe they said that in the next invoice, they were gonna rectify any of those differences. So we'll have to wait until we get the next quarter's invoice and then
Okay.
go from there.
So, any other questions on the motion for the recommendation? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next up.
Me
Look at
again.
that. Directors ask you again.
Okay, so this is an RCD for the audited financial statements. So we would like to approve the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021. My recommendation is that town council accept Wild and Company Chartered Professional Accountants report and approve the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2021.
Okay, I'll take a motion for this. Councilor Lemko makes the motion. Any comments? Go ahead, Councilor Orwa.
I just wanted to comment that I like the way they break it down. I think it's pretty clear. I like the categories that they give. I think that, I've seen some similar stuff done for other types of departments, and I think this is pretty straightforward, so it's good to see and easy to follow.
Okay. It's nice that they sent it out to all of us. We had a chance to go through it, and again, Director Sasky walked us through it, held our hand to the heavy lifting, so we know where we're going, so. And, of course, they always contact me and ask me if there's anything that council sees that they might wanna look at it even deeper, and I told them about those 8 things that we brought up, and it was good.
It's good.
Just joking about that. Okay, all those in favor of the motion of the recommendation? Carried. Thank you. Look at that. You can go again.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a request for,
Okay, go right ahead, yep.
are we good? I just heard Councillor Curtis. We're good?
Councilor Curtis is stepping
Oh,
off the Zoom
stepping
meeting
off.
for right now,
Oh, yes. Yes. That is clear. So this is an RCD to approve the ATCO Light proposal. So the town of Vegreville was approached by ATCO on March 8th, 2022 to convert the remaining non-invested lights to invested and to convert all streetlights to LED. To facilitate this process, ATCO has offered the town financial incentives. The presentation from ATCO outlined how the cost of LEDs are now on par with HPS streetlights, so they're able to make a better offer for conversion than what has been available in the past. The financial implication of this is ATCO has offered the town an investment of $287,342 to offset the additional costs associated with conversion. This investment is estimated to cover additional costs for 67 months. Income equal to the additional unbudgeted expenditures from related to the conversion will be recorded in 2022. The unused portion of the $287,342 investment will be transferred to a carry-forward reserve. This reserve would reduce additional costs that would be associated with the conversion until fully utilized. So my recommendation is that town council accept the proposal presented by ATCO on March 8th, 2022. Administration recommends that town council authorize the transfer of $287,342 less expenditures incurred in excess of 2022 budget to the carry forward reserve.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barry makes the motion. Any question? Okay, and I just want to state that we've all went through this a few times with ATCO, and then it was explained to us where we're at, and we feel that this is the best move moving forward, getting rid of our street lights and bringing them all together and switching them over to LEDs. So all those in favor? Carried. Jameson, are you still in charge of the Zoom meeting?
No, you are the host.
Okay, so how do I get him to come back?
I will reach out to Councilor Chris.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and Director Saski, you still have another one here. You are popular today.
That's what happens when we don't have council for 2 weeks. Okay, so this is another RCD for extension of option to purchase date. So this is to approve the extension of the option to purchase by the town of Vegreville. So as per policy Gov 1002, sale of town-owned land, section 3.16 states that in the event that the development guidelines and timeframes are not met by the purchaser, the town may repurchase the town-owned land for 80% the original selling price. Discussions with the purchaser of Plan 213868, Block 80, Lot 2, identified that their build date will be starting in May 2022, and that the bank is requiring an extension of the August 6 deadline before they are willing to advance funds. The purchaser noted that at minimum a 9-month extension to May 9th, 2023, or a preferred extension of 12 months to August 6, 2023, will be required to obtain bank financing necessary to complete the build. So there's no immediate financial implications to the town. The communication would be the purchaser and senior management will be made aware of the extension of the option to purchase, and the recommendation is that council approve the extension of the option to purchase for 12 months to August 6, 2023.
Okay. Need a motion? Councillor Rudick makes the motion. Any discussion? So that's adding a full year onto a deadline.
That is correct. So they did say that they could probably make the 9 months work as well, so to May 9th of 2023. At that rate, they would have to have the basement dug and everything, like, basically sealed for the inside work to be commenced through the winter at that point in time. So I would imagine that a house would be fairly well constructed by the end of the summer at that rate too.
Well, I mean, this is a condition that we put
It'd be setting precedent for
for
others.
sure, and I wanna work with these people and stuff, but, anybody else have any thoughts on this, or just? Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
I don't know, I guess if we do this, we probably put ourselves in a position with every lot remaining on that development. Put ourselves at risk to, extend it out for everybody then. So I don't-
What, again, this is for the bank, for their mortgage.
Yes, and the bank thinks it's a risk to advance funds for a house to be built in 4 months at this point in time. Because these are one of the first purchases, one of the first lot sales. The other ones are December further on into the winter, so that would probably not be as.
I can sort of get it, but, well, goes against why we put this, this addendum in there, like, is why this rider's always there. Do you wanna change it to 9 months, or your motion? Oh, go ahead, Councillor Barry.
I was just gonna say, Your Worship, that by giving them the minimum 9-month extension, it really actually still gives them a year, because it isn't May yet. So, I mean, we could take it down to their 9-month extension, which would give them up until May 9th of 2023.
So they got the 4 months, and the bank wants more security than 4 months, they can get this house done. So you give them another 9 months, gives them another, that's a full year.
Yeah, they have the winter to complete the inside.
You wanna change your motion on the recommendation?
Yeah, I could do that for 9 months, sure.
Okay? So the recommendation is now that we extend it for 9 months. Okay, everybody go ahead.
Have you had communication with the purchaser or their legal counsel? Obviously not with the bank directly, correct?
With the purchaser, that is correct.
So I wonder, maybe if we can just flag this as a potential ongoing issue, because we had put that policy in place to protect the town. And if this continues to be potentially a trigger for other purchases, we might need to address this, because we want to continue to make sure that we're protecting ourselves. So I'm happy with the adjustment to 9 months instead of 12. But maybe we need to keep an eye on this as we move forward too.
So again, this is just an extension, this is not a change in policy when we sell lots, that that we always have that in there, that it's 12 months or we get the lot back at 80% of the value. We're just doing this because of how long it's taken them to get their financing in place. Okay, so everybody's happy, all those in favor? Gary, I do believe that's it for you, thank you.
Thank you.
CAO Leggett is up next.
Thank you, Your Worship, and after all those lengthy ones for the director there, I get the 2 short ones, so 2 short and sweet, back to back. So the first one, I'll just go with the background on this. So on March the 2nd, 2022, at the request of council, a memo was distributed to all the town Vegreville staff asking for their suggestions for an official pond park name for what's commonly referred to as the man-made pond right now. Total of 10 names were submitted by staff on March 17th, 2022. Those names were sent to council, and each councillor asked to pick their 2 favorites. Based on the responses from council, the submitted name with the most votes was Sunrise Park with 5. So we're recommending that town council officially name what was formerly Man-Made Pond, located at 44A and 59 Avenue. Name it Sunrise Park now, moving forward.
Okay, looking for a motion on the recommendation. Councilor Lemko makes the motion. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Rudick.
Happy to see this official name chosen, but I also wanted to just make sure that we don't lose the other suggestions that were made, because there were some other good ones that would be nice to use at some of our other locations around town. So potentially we can use some of those suggestions in other places, but I will look forward to seeing the sunrise over Sunrise Park soon.
Play on words, very nice. Yes, there was, I'd like to thank those 2 to put the names of park in. There was some prominent members of this community at one time, and it had done a lot for our community. But this was the one that was chosen, so if the motion goes ahead, it will be Sunrise Park from here to eternity, I guess. All those in favor? Carried, there you go. News of the day. Okay, CAO Leggett again.
Heard it here first.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this one is an RCD to rescind a previously existing council motion, motion number 2021-10-10, which set initial pricing for Prosperity Park. In October 2021, when developing marketing plans for Foxview Estates and the 75th Street Business Park and the Prosperity Industrial Park, Council made the motion 2021-10-10 to set the initial price for the Prosperity Industrial Park lots. As there's been no marketing plan created for Prosperity Industrial lots as of yet, and nothing has been done with relation to the motion, council has the ability to rescind it here at this point. With the full construction of the 78 acres of Prosperity Industrial Park starting this spring, pricing for marketing purposes should be left until closer to the completion date when lot sizes and acreages are finalized. No financial implications at this time, as there's been no marketing plan for the park, and the recommendation is that town council rescind motion 2021-10-10 from the regular council meeting dated October 13th, 2021.
Okay, take a motion for that. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. So now we're gonna enter into some bylaws. And we're gonna go through these bylaws because we have made 100 changes to most of them. So we're all very, very well acquainted with the wording, they've been in council's hands for quite some time now, the official ones with the changes. So as we move forward here, this will be going very quick, but I want everybody to know there's been a lot of time spent on all of these next 3 bylaws, so. First up, who's presenting the bylaws? Go ahead, Director Rowe.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first one is the traffic safety bylaws, 06-2022. There's memorandums attached for council for all 3 of the bylaws. At the Legislative Committee meeting on March 22nd, 2022, the 2022 draft traffic bylaw was presented to council for consideration and discussion. Upon consensus of council, the draft traffic safety bylaw allows the CAO authority to designate speed limits in rear lanes within the town of Vegreville at 30 kilometers per hour. Council also determined that any references to demonstrations added in the recent draft bylaw be removed. Section 6, General Regulations, Parades, has been reverted to its original content. The town of Vegreville may charge fines to those found in contraventions at rates outlined in this bylaw. The communication strategy, the adjusted speed limit in rear lanes will be communicated via the town of Vegreville's website and social media channels.
Okay, at this time, on bylaw number 06-2022, traffic bylaw, I would take a motion for the first reading. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. I will take a motion for the second reading. Councillor Warwa makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. I will take a motion for unanimous consent. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. I didn't even look at you, sorry. And I'll take a motion for the third and final reading on this bylaw. Councillor Rudick makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Director Rowe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Another memorandum to council. Topic is the 2022 Responsible Pet Ownership Bylaw. The background at the Legislative Committee meeting on April 5th, 2022, the 2022 draft Responsible Pet Ownership Bylaw was proposed to council for discussion. Revisions suggested by council have been applied and is prepared for final readings. Financial implications: the town of Vegreville may charge fines to those found in contravention at rates outlined in this bylaw. The communication strategy: the town of Vegreville will create a campaign encouraging pet registration and responsible pet ownership through the town's social media channels.
Thank you. So at this time, I will take a motion for the first reading on bylaw number 07-2022, Responsible Pet Ownership Bylaw. Councillor Berry makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. I'll take a motion for second reading. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. I'll need a motion for unanimous consent for Councillor Lemko makes that motion. All those in favor? Carried. And a motion for the third and final reading. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you again. You have one more.
Yes, I do, sir. This is bylaw number 08/2022, topic green light bylaw. The background, the green light program, SOG, standard operating guideline, draft bylaw, town of Vegreville, bylaw number 08/2022. Green light bylaw was presented and discussed at the April 5th, 2022 legislative meeting in depth. This bylaw is to authorize the use of flashing green lights in the personal vehicles of Vegreville Fire Department members that meet department-specific criteria. The green light bylaw must be passed prior to purchasing and issuing the green lights. Financial implications, the green lights are $50 each and will be purchased through the department equipment budget. A maximum of 40 lights would be needed. They will remain the property of the town of Vegreville. The communication strategy, once approved, an extensive community public education campaign will be developed and posted on the town of Vegreville's website, social media avenues, along with an official media release outlining the program. In addition, road signs will be erected on entry into Vegreville, alerting motorists of the flashing green light program.
Thank you very much. So this time, I will take a motion for first reading on bylaw 08/2022 Green Light Program bylaw. Councillor Warwell makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. I will now take a motion for the second reading of this bylaw. Councillor Barry makes that motion. All those in favor? Carried. I'll need a motion for unanimous consent. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. I need a motion for third and final reading. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. That's it for you, Director. Now we're back to Director Saskew.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is the 2022 Property Tax and Penalty Bylaw. Background, the Town of Vegreville Bylaw 09-2022 was presented and discussed at the April 19th, 2022 legislative meeting in depth. The 2022 Property Tax and Tax Penalty Bylaw must be passed prior to issuing combined assessment and tax notices the week of May 9th to 13th, 2022. Financial implications, the Town of Vegreville will levy taxes and penalties at the rates proposed in the bylaw, and the communication strategy will be the combined assessment and tax notices will be mailed to property owners or emailed if that is what they've selected. Senior management will be made aware of the approved rates.
Thank you very much. So I'll be taking a motion for the first reading of bylaw 09/2022 Property Tax and Tax Penalty Bylaw. So looking for a motion for first reading. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Take a motion this time for the second reading. Councillor Lemko makes that motion. All in favor? Carried. I'll need a motion for unanimous consent. Councillor Rudick makes the motion. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. And third and final motion for the reading. Councillor Barry beat you. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you all very much. I know some of those bylaws were hard to get through and it took a long time, but I mean, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. So hopefully we're there right now and we have a strategy moving forward that we'll do one bylaw a month. Is that how we're gonna move here on in? Okay, yeah, perfect. So next up is council reports. And we're gonna start with Councillor Curtis, since you've been sitting here and not getting a chance to get in too often. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. So for April, for me, April 4th, we attended the VTAB meeting, and the 5th we had our ledge meeting, a council meeting on the 11th, and then another ledge meeting on the 19th. I did a talk of the town last Friday, 22nd, with Director Saskew and Renee over at the radio station. It was fun for my first time. Hopefully it went well. I think it did. Maybe get some facts out there about taxes, and hopefully that coincides with the assessments going on. The 23rd, I was at the Val Sweeting Day meet and greet with Val. It was nice to see her. I hadn't seen her in a while. Quite a few people showed up to get autographs and pictures. It was nice to see some young girls out there too, seeing some good interest in the sport, and brought some of their curling paraphernalia, some brooms and things with them, and they were pretty excited to meet Val, so that was pretty nice. Today we had our FCSS meeting earlier, before the council meeting, and then today's council meeting. That's what I've been up to.
You said you were at FCSS meeting earlier?
You betcha.
You're gonna wait for Councilor Warwa to give us a report?
Well, you know what, I have some stuff to report on, I guess. I just, whatever I report on, Councilor Rawa, you can report on the other portion, I suppose. One thing that was brought up, was that, we'd like to, a community rep, either a town councillor or possibly director, to come by once a month and do a community update for some of the seniors. They feel that, you know, a lot of them aren't on the social media side and they may be missing out on, some of the goings on in town. So that was something that was brought up. I thought might be a good idea. So while they're looking for some new, volunteers for the Meals on Wheels program, seems that some of the volunteers may be coming to the end of their tenure there. The commitment's only once a month for about an hour or so, depending on how many meals are delivered. So it's not too much time commitment, but it sure makes a difference to some members of the community. Another thing that was brought up was the block party. So they're trying to organize some block party kits and guides. Some other communities have done it, and it's been a pretty fun event in the summer. So on the 26th, they're going to throw like an introduction to a block party. So they're going to show what kind of games they have, what it takes to put one together. As well, they're going to be in talk with the towns of how we can make this safe and people in the community can set up and do a quick little block party. You know, COVID's hopefully behind us as best as we can. So getting out and, you know, meeting your neighbors and getting back out and enjoying life. So it's something to look forward to. And that's pretty much what I got for the meeting. I think that Councilor Raw will have a few more things to say that are more up her alley. So.
Well, thank you very much, and moving right along to Councilor Warwa. What's up your alley?
Well, I'll just go quickly through. I have a lot of the same meetings I'm sure everyone else does. I will just read them through and then go back to the couple highlights I'd like to make.
Certainly.
So the 18th, 19th, I had the council retreat, the 22nd legislative meeting, 23rd, the original stands with Ukraine meeting at the social center. The 24th, I had a VTSS meeting. The 25th was an FCSS, and then April 5th, legislative. April 18th, special council meeting. April 23rd, a Ukrainian greeting, and April 25th, today being FCSS and council meeting. So going back up, I just wanted to speak to, I got to attend my first VTSS meeting, and it was a little bit of a learning curve because I haven't worked with them yet before, but two of the big things is they are still looking going forward at the purchase of a new van for transportation. One of their biggest things, of course, is going to be the continuation of having drivers. So they are always looking for that, as well as looking for board members, because there is a very small core. So that's one of the recruitment items they'll be working with. And it should be noted that they are still doing, even though it isn't typically in the mandate, have still been doing transfers related to hospital transfers with lack sometimes of ambulance services. So that's just something to be aware of. From our Ukrainian greeting, what I wanted to bring forward was on Saturday, I was able to meet with a Ukrainian family. We had spoken before about one of our Viper A players that was from Ukraine, which was Makita, and we know there's been a fundraiser there. So his mom and his sister arrived last week from the Ukraine, and they asked if we could potentially give them a little tour of Vegreville on Saturday. So a member from the paper did come out, a member from the Vipers, unfortunately being the weekend of the Orthodox Ukrainian Easter, Natalia wasn't able to join us, but Tim Badala did. So a special thank you to Tim. He came and was able to do some translating for us. And so basically we had a quick stop to the Pesenka, and then his mom and his sister was unable to attend just due to some quarantine issue, but she wanted to be able to see what the community was like. So we actually drove all around, including past the mayor's house, and we stopped at a few of the facilities, showing her, of course, including where the Ukrainian Orthodox Church was, because Mr. Badala had invited them to attend the service this weekend if they wished. And then we did do a stop to the Aquatic and Fitness Center and gave them a little bit of a tour there. So it was very good, and she'll be back out, but it was nice to be able to welcome her. So As far as the FCSS meeting today, I just have a few things that I would want to add in. Councillor Curtis covered most of them. He mentioned the Meals on Wheels, and just one of the things we were noting was that they said that last month was 312, which was the highest it's been for quite a while. There could be several reasons for that, but one of which they felt was people potentially having some more comfort with access to the program now that some of the COVID restrictions and some time has gone past. And one thing I wanted to highlight, though, is that within that, it was indicated that the Kinets had donated 1 meal for each client for each month. So that was greatly appreciated, and I wanted to note it. And the clients have been calling into the FCSS anytime they did receive that donated meal and thanking them very much. So I wanted to bring that. The other issue I think that Councillor Curtis may have been alluding to is we obviously have had a lot of discussions as far as the opening of some of our Alberta supports type of offices. We just want to give this as an initial alert to council. We believe we're going to need to have some additional advocacy that might need to start with an outreach to our MLA just to alert her of some of the situation that's ongoing. Fortunately, and a huge thank you to the FCSS, they've been keeping stats, and they're going to provide us a memo overview of the stats for how many people they've been dealing with. But what has been going on is while the office itself is now opened, people still are not receiving any direct service as far as nobody will help them with their application. They can use the computer, they can use the phone, but nobody will help them with an application. And currently at this point right now, if an AISH client is to meet with one of their intake workers, that's not happening there either. And apparently what is being told forward to us was that it seems like there doesn't seem to be any announcement of intention to go back to that level of service. So the building is opened, potentially there's a phone, and potentially there's a computer, but they're not returning to the level of service at this point. So fortunately, our FCSS has kept track of how often somebody is coming to their office still, how often they're having to direct them, and how often they're coming back to us. They're going to provide that, and then once they do, we'd like to review it with council and potentially have a first outreach with the MLA to alert her of this, because we don't know at this point whether she was aware that this is what's happened. So in fairness, we should go there and then potentially further to the ministry. But what they are still being told is that even somebody who contacts is still requiring an email in order to send documents back to them, or they can go on the phone. Their phone is still a minimum of 45 minutes. It's not being helped by a worker within the building. It's access to a phone. Often special considerations for people that are considered an urgent are still waiting even up to 12 to 13 days after to get a call back from their caseworkers. And at this point right now, there isn't a setup for AISH workers to be doing in-person meetings. So those are all things that are very concerning, and what it leaves us with is our FCSS is still doing those jobs. So once that comes forward, we'll bring more information, but I think we're going to have to go further and step to our MLA, because opening a building is just opening a door. If they're not providing the services again, honestly, then to me, I don't understand the reason why, and nobody from the province has come indicating a level of service change. All we were waiting for was the opening of the doors. There has been a lot of impact, just to be aware of, that this also brings forward. I mean, that building there as well, at one point was every third Thursday, I believe it was, I think it was third Thursday, could be Thursday, Tuesday. It was also a mobile station for Service Canada, so that now is another item not being accessible. I'm not saying that's completely on the province, because some of that was shut down due to the fact the building wasn't there, but it's also a case of you have a building that's open but you're still not providing the services. So that is just a little bit of an overview, and again, a big thank you, Phil, to the FCSS, if you can tell them that we appreciate the fact that they've actually been keeping information and stats on what they've been doing, because that's what we'll need going forward. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, well, I trust that once you get the right information, that you'll get it out to our MLA's office and arrange a meeting and see what the staff is actually doing over there then.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Bullock.
Okay, so back Back March 17th, Economic Development Meeting. On March 18th, Flowerland presentation. With that, it was pretty nicely received over there. It's nice to see a business in business for many years as they have been. March 18th and 19th are Council Strategic Planning Meetings Retreat. March 22nd, Dairy Queen presentation. March 22nd, our Legislative Committee meeting, followed on March 23rd with the Stand With Ukraine Public Forum. March 29th, we had our Vegreville and District Chamber of Commerce meeting. Back on March 31st, story time reading and coffee with counselor at Vegreville Centennial Library, along with Councillor Barry. So it was good to see some of the children out enjoying the stories. Interesting fact there, local businessman was in there, new to town, moved to town here, and he gave Vegreville a 10 out of 10, saying our community how good it really was. So that was something to say, seen with eyes that came from outside our community. So everyone here should be proud of that. Back on April 5th, Legislative Committee meeting. April 6th, attended the Vegreville Corn Maze Committee meeting as a volunteer. Plans are underway for the 2022 Fall Vegreville Corn Maze. Bigger and better this year as well. April 6th, 7th, and 8th, I virtually attended the Economic Developers Alberta Conference. That was really interesting. Things about, green technologies and going forward with that. Lots of interesting things there. Lots of good learning for me. So, but lots of things on the horizon will be coming through. Everyone will be noticing. So. As well, we had an online meeting April 7th, Vegreville and District Chamber of Commerce. They're discussing some of the fundraising events about going forward. On April 12th, Cal's Zoom meeting that I attended. April 18th, special meeting of council. April 19th, Legislative Committee meeting. April 20th, I'm participating in the elected officials program, council's role and levels of service course. April 22nd, attended Quesada, Burritos, and Tacos grand opening. And tonight's council meeting.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Fairly long list going all the way back into March. On March the 15th, I had the pleasure of going out to Lakeland College and giving a lecture to the second and third year applied science students on watershed ecology. And that was at the same point in time that these students would then go out on the next couple of days and sample the river from top to bottom and do some collections for us for water quality and etc. So it was rather interesting, and they managed to get it done just before the ice broke up and the water started to flow. But it was some very good students there, and they're very, very interested in working in these some of these studies. On that same day, I came back and spoke with the Rotary Club about the Vegreville Regional Historical Society startup. And the following day, did talk to the town with Director Rowe on the same subject of the startup of the Historical Society. Then on the 17th, kept up that same theme by going to registration night and speaking to it there, as well as handing out information on the Stand With Ukraine for the following few nights. 18th and 19th, I was also at the retreat for strategic planning, followed by the Ledge meeting on the 22nd, and on the 23rd, attended the Stand With Ukraine public forum. On the 24th, we had our inaugural meeting for the Vegreville Regional Historical Society and introduced to the public more of what we're trying to accomplish, and we will be moving forward with that in the near future here as we get more interest. On the 29th, I attended the Vegreville Community Health Services Awareness Meeting, and I think this is actually a very good meeting just to let the various different groups from around the area know what is taking place in the health services and keeping everybody aware of what's going on, etc. On the 31st, I also enjoyed the storybook reading and coffee with counselors at the library. And yes, a few of the youngsters were actually quite entertaining as we read stories to them. I thought it was, I'm actually looking forward to going back there pretty soon. On April the 4th, Vermillion River Watershed Executive Meeting, and then April the 5th, Ledge Meeting. Also at the Corn Maze Committee meeting as a volunteer on the 6th, and we're starting to get various plans brought forward on that. On April the 7th, and I'll try it one more time, Vegreville Regional Health Professionals Attraction and Retention Committee, nailed it, meeting. Which, that mouthful has to change. But I thought that it was a very good meeting as well, with some planning into the future and getting to understand a little bit more of just what strains are on our medical professionals in the community, and how we need to keep reminding them and thanking them for the service that they do. The Vermillion River Watershed Board meeting on the 13th was at the ribbon cutting and opening of the Quasaya Burritos and Tacos grand opening on the 22nd, and then tonight's meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Riddick.
Hey. It's been a while since we've had a council meeting, so there's lots of things on my not prepared council report, so I'll go off of my calendar and my notes. On March 15th and 16th, I attended the RMA Spring Convention. Good to hear different perspectives, particularly on the ICF and the resolution. So there were some strong opinions about how valuable that process was. But in the end, there were only 6, I believe, municipalities that actually went to arbitration because they were unable to resolve differences between partners. So kind of an interesting conversation there on a number of different issues. The March 16th was the library board meeting. March 18th, Minburn Foundation. 19th and 20th was council retreat at Métis Crossing. I've had a number of FCM meetings in that interim. I attended the hub meeting on behalf of your worship on March 24th. And March 29th to 30th, I was at the Globe Forum for FCM, which is a conference talking about moving to net zero and what that looks like for the municipal stream. Very interesting given the conversations and the announcements with Inca Renewtech, talking about alternate building materials to be able to remove carbon and try to be able to meet the dearth of skilled labor that's going to be there, and looking at composition of building in terms of using panels and those kind of techniques, as well as providing affordable building techniques. So this actually is very promising, taking a look at this announcement and seeing where else it might fit into that scenario moving forward. Had a number of conversations with a number of different parties about the RCMP retroactive pay leading up to the federal budget. So those are ongoing conversations, and hopefully we'll resolve that soon. I will also just mention we have a new administrator that's been hired at the hospital. So sorry to add that on to Councillor Barry's report, that was one of the things that came forward at the Attraction and Retention Committee. And also Dr. Naidu and her husband, Mr. Moodley, welcomed a new resident to town. So we have a new young member of the community, so that's wonderful to see. We also attended ASHA conference, Alberta Seniors and Community Housing Affordability Association, is that what it is? With the manager from the Minburn Foundation. And Minister Pon is intending to come here at the end of May, so having that attendance at that conference is actually great to be able to have a better understanding of the wide breadth of issues that are facing seniors housing, particularly in the wake of COVID and what that looks like moving forward. And particularly for us in Vegreville, being able to prepare for that meeting with Minister Pon and making sure that we've got the right answers. So one thing I will just mention, because we've talked about this previously, that there was considerable concern. Myself and Councillor Lemko had attended a few consultations with the provincial body talking about skills-based boards and the concern that they were going to implement external evaluation about whether or not boards were effective or meeting their criteria. I think they heard the concern very loud and clear from communities, and that board recruitment or assessment is not intended to displace municipally elected and selected appointed board members, which is great. What it will do is perhaps amplify and take a look at where, as for example, our foundation includes elected representatives from the town of Vegreville, county of Minburn, Innisfree, and Manville. But perhaps maybe we should have some community members that might be providing an additional perspective. But again, the expertise, the skills and qualifications that are often already existent on these boards will not be overseen or overridden, which is something that we were all very concerned about, having external ability to be able to come in and override duly elected officials that are appointed to boards. There were a number of different conversations at that gathering as well, talking about the need to be able to modernize the policy. So there's been an overhaul of a lot of things that all need to come together. So there's 25 years worth of policy that are getting implemented together, which may not seem significant, but given the number of bylaws that we did here tonight, you can imagine the number of disparities that they found through COVID that were maybe not congruent. So they're bringing all of those pieces of policy together into one document that will streamline things and hopefully provide better care for seniors as we move forward, which is probably timely given the number of people that are going to be reaching that age right away. April 14th, I attended the John S. Batook Water Commission tour with His Worship, and good to be able to see how important that facility is and the relevance of having really effective communications with our partners that work on that water line, and be able to see where we need to go moving forward. Also want to make special note that the Minburn Foundation, we had our meeting just last week, and we did a tour of the facility and have done another renovation. Some of the rooms are extremely small, if anybody's been within the facility. So we've taken some of the smaller rooms, taken two, and we made them into one suite, and they're immediately occupied. So we're bringing some of those smaller suites into the future and making that available for some of our long-term residents. And finally, the Town of Vegreville Library Board meeting was on April 20th. We continue to go through a number of the bylaws and policies to update them. Of special note, I will just say that the attendance at the library is at a very high level. People are very happy to be coming back to the facility, and the programming is vast and varied, so I would encourage anybody to go onto the website and be able to see the programming that's available from the very youngest to the most experienced Vacaville residents. And there will be a few new things that you see inside the facility, including some new furniture and desks that were already there to complete that. And that is my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lemko.
Thank you, Your Worship. My report, I'll summarize the report as it's quite extensive, and I will touch on some of the highlights throughout the last month or so that I've been doing. I've been working with the Stand with Ukraine committee, and I've been to 6 meetings, formal meetings, as well as lots of phone calls and stuff happening in the side. I wanted to send out a sincere thank you to the committee chairs and all the people who've put their name forward to volunteer. As the committee works in the background, trying to put together a very complicated puzzle with the pieces that's going to take to get the displaced Ukrainians settled into our community and the surrounding area. So stay tuned. We'll be reaching out as much as we can to the community and looking for your support as we pull this together. I attended many meetings, Little Edge meetings, the strat planning and the council meetings, along with my fellow colleagues here. The Go East of Edmonton Tourism Board meeting, a couple of those. Just to touch on tourism is an exciting time for many of the communities here because people are ramping up and traveling. We once again will be offering the road trip game, expanding to more communities. I believe there's 47 communities involved in the road trip to get people out to this northeast region. We're talking about the East of Edmonton Culinary, which is a local food event that will be held probably in Vicarville. Upwards of 500 to 600 people is what they're looking at, local food from local producers. The guidebook is at print and should be out shortly. Along with Councillor Rudick, I attended the Minburn Foundation, and to add to your discussion on the competency-based structure, interesting, a comment that was made as we sat in on that webinar was that this is a move to eventually shift ownership. Privatization is what this is all leading to, from what was said at the webinar, and I had to write that down because I thought that's interesting how they would do that. At the last board meeting, they talked about the arrangements to have Minister of Seniors and Housing, Minister Pond, visit our Minburn Foundation. I attended the webinar, the Alberta Provincial Police Transition Study. It's interesting. There's lots of question about what this new model looks like. Some of the concerns was the funding, who's going to pay this, and who sets the deployment model for each municipality in there? Who's responsible for that deployment model? And the operating model, who sets that up? What is training centers? And I think they're talking about Edmonton and Calgary and working with those two centers. And then where are we going to find 2,500 members to fill those spots? So that was some of the discussion around that. Interesting. The tourism, Vegreville Tourism Board, we've finalized our mural on what it looks like. We're just looking for a suitable location to put the mural on. In town, talks about Canada Day, what that looks like, how we can regionally do that, like we did in the past with our neighboring communities, Mundare and Lavoie and the area. And there's a talk about, too, a regional tourism Twin City initiative with the 130th anniversary of Ukrainian settlers and what that looks like. And I think with what's going on, that's sort of been put on the back burner. Attended the Corn Maze meeting as a volunteer. And we talked about the 6 weekends that we're having, theme-based. And maybe at that time we might do the Ukrainian thing with Vegreville Stands with Ukraine, have a Ukrainian weekend. And Councillor Barry has informed me that he's got a new formula to get the grass to grow, the corn to grow, actually, and maybe plant the seeds closer together. I'm not sure, but he says we'll have corn as tall as you can see. And that, Your Worship, is my report.
Thank you very much. So, basically, I've attended all the meetings of council and attended everything else with everybody else. I just want to touch on a few things. Of course, I've had many meetings with Inca and with their CAO and our Economic Development Manager, and with Planning and Development, Karina stepping in. We've had a few interested parties in a building for sale, and we showed that a couple of times, and I've had a few more meetings with Blue Skies, and they're all very positive. We attended the C1 initiative incentive for the check program, so we went to Blush Blonde, Budget Floors, and Chin's Restaurant, and I want to thank those that came with her that day. It was a really good day. It was nice to see those people, and anytime we get a chance to reward somebody for showing a commitment to our community, it's always nice. Of course, I was at the HEM conference and the Edmonton Airport, the 21st and the 22nd for the announcements, and a lot more networking, and just it was very, very encouraging to see the optimism there. I've been to a lot of these seminars and stuff the last few years, and everybody was always the same, but there's a whole different feel in the hemp industry today. So, and it was nice to see the provincial and federal governments actually getting involved in this too. So. And on the 17th, I was part of the group that went to Flowerland and recognized them for their years in town and business, and it was nice to do. We had some planning for the Val Sweeting Day, and then on April 23rd, we had Val Sweeting Day, and I just want to thank Andy Lanko from Tourism for her help, and Jameson, and it turned out well. There wasn't a huge crowd, but it was a steady flow all day, and the Val got to actually have conversations with people, and it was nice to see, Councilor Curtis brought up, some young people came from Sherwood Park and stuff with some, their brooms and jackets and stuff they wanted signed, and it was funny to see how nervous somebody would be around Val, but, when you look at it, she is pretty famous. I knew her when she wasn't, but all in all, it's been a pretty busy month. I know that we missed, one meeting at council, and, we had a special meeting, to pass a resolution that, Councilor Councilor Rudig will be putting her letter and name stand at FCM coming up here in June for the president of FCM, and we're all wishing you the most of luck there. And Councilor Lemko and myself will be going to vote for you, so
Thank you.
hopefully it's enough to get you over.
Let's hope so.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody, and I want to thank the staff. We've had, a fairly busy month and a half here, and things have been going pretty steady here, but, I'm pretty sure that, everything's under control, and, that's where we're at. So is there any other business of council? We don't have a CAO report? Okay, and so I didn't miss it, so that's good. So if there's no other business of council, I will adjourn the meeting.